Today on Locked On Rockies, how do the Rockies compare to the rest of the division in terms of lineup, plus your thoughts on the lockout?
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans. Welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 4th day of March, a Friday, as we get ready to roll on into the weekend. Still locked out, still Locked On Rockies here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, your Rockies fan extraordinaire, also working on the radio airwaves here in Seattle and in Ohio. You can check all my work out at paulfholden.com if you want to see more about what I do. But I have been bleeding Rockies purple for all 27 years of my life. And I wish I was gearing up to head to Arizona or something to go experience spring training for the first time. Today on Locked On Rockies, we are going to rank the lineup compared to the rest of the division. How do the Rockies stack up against the Dodgers, Padres, D-backs, and Giants? And I have a question for you, and that's actually where we will start today. But before I do that, thank you for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. We'd love if you subscribe to our YouTube channel and if you give us a 5-star rating and subscribe on your favorite podcast services. And hey, just tell your favorite Rockies fan about the pod. I have a question for you, Rockies fans. And this is something I tweeted out from my personal account the other day, and I'm just curious. I want to take the pulse. And I want, if you're listening to the show right now, please tweet at me at LO Rockies. Maybe you're not a Rockies fan. That's fine. If you're listening to the show right now, tweet at me at LO Rockies, at Paul Holden 33. And I want you to tell me your perspective of the lockout. And as a fan of your team, especially, I'm asking Rockies fans, especially, because if you're of the mindset and you're of the core of wanting both sides to compromise and get a deal done for the good of the game, and you want players to go out and play because it's baseball, they should play, and they'd still make a lot of money and all that stuff. I'm not going to shut you down, but I want you to explain to me why you want to see more compromise from both sides instead of owners, and especially from an owner that's leading the charge, Dick Monfort, that has let Rockies fans down for so long. Maybe you're not as let down by Dick Monfort as I am. Maybe you're someone out there that actually sees a positive in the Nolan Arenado trade. Maybe you're someone out there that loves Rockies baseball so much that it's just Rockies baseball. At the end, win, lose, you love the Rockies. I feel for you. I'm there too. That's what I do. I still watch the Rockies all the time. I'm still mad about them, but I'm still here. I'm still watching. I'm still with you. But I want you to tell me how this lockout makes you feel. I want to know how the lockout makes you feel as a Rockies fan at this point. How has it changed your opinion of baseball? Because as a Rockies fan, baseball has not been kind to you in the past 3 years. It truly hasn't. Trading away, star players, not re-signing star players, not having a clear direction, a competitive window and team that was just completely thrown out the window. On top of Dick Monfort being highly involved in what seems like a bunch of hooey on these talks. I'm of the camp that I don't think a deal was ever close. I think that was just classic. We were trying to drum something up. Here's the deadline. Let's try to make them break. But there's no true deadline because both sides are willing to lose games, and they already have. But I ask you, who's in a worse position? And we saw news of this today. The union is trying to set up $1 million fund for those impacted, those workers. Why is it taking just $1 million? Why are owners not stepping up? I'm sorry. This is what I'm talking about, folks. They don't have to. It's not their responsibility. It's probably not good business sense, but they have the mountain of wealth. They gain the most from baseball seasons. They gain the most money. They have the most power. They have, honestly, the most influence because they dictate what's going on. They've had the power. They've had the power for the last 2 CBAs. But now The union beats them to starting this $1 million fund. Now the league wants to do something. But why is this why was this not covered originally? All of this, why I bring that up, just brings me back to my question, especially for you Rockies fans, is what do you think about Major League Baseball right now? What do you think about Major League Baseball, especially the Colorado Rockies? Because this is sour. I don't know how many people, again, in Rockies fandom, actually sit there and can say that they are really happy with the state of their baseball team in this state of Major League Baseball. Some people don't look that deep and they just want to watch baseball, and that's fine. Honestly, that's fine. But if you want to talk about it, if you're gonna chime in on Twitter, if you're gonna say stuff, you have to be ready for people to come and not only no one should be rude, but if you're gonna put your opinions out on in the Twitter sphere, then you need to be ready to explain why you feel that way. And if the way you feel is that you love the game and you see this as the fight of wealth, the millionaire billionaire thing, that's honestly not a terrible opinion in the optics of the world. But just listen to what people are saying about why we cannot allow owners to just retain the power and retain control as they've had over the last two CBAs. The wealth needs to be spread. Teams need to invest in every asset of their organization. And if they can't, sell the team for profit. We've said this over and over again. But it's every day I log on Twitter and I see some similar stuff. Folks, the money is there. The people that own baseball teams are not forced to own baseball teams. If it is too expensive for them, sell the team for profit because you will make a profit on what you bought it. Guaranteed. And there are plenty of other wealthy people that want to get in there. Passan said it best. You take if you try to replace the top 1,300 players in Major League Baseball with the next 1,300 players top 1,300 players in Major League Baseball, the product is going to greatly suffer. If you take and replace all 30 owners, the game is not going to suffer. In fact, it could get better. There is no explanation for me to sit and feel confident that the pie isn't supposed to be more divvied up. And that includes the stadium worker. That includes the person that spends their summer walking up and down, handing you beers at the ballpark. That includes the person that takes your ticket. That includes the person that cleans the stadium. That includes the spring training facilities. That includes the minor league facilities. Why? Because that's your organization. It's your organization, and it's the money that you have to invest if you want to actually be a good owner. In my eyes. I know that's not business because you know what? You're not going to make as much money. If I ran a team, I wouldn't make as much money as people. And others, and that would, and in the view of some, I would be looked as a failure that way. But if I can ensure a high quality of life for the people that give everything to make me my money, I will feel better. And maybe I'm sitting here, Fantasy Island, on a cloud, la-di-da, you're brushing me off, but that's how I feel. Look at the wealth of these owners. And then you ask yourself, why doesn't my team give a big contract? Why do they hide behind things like small market, blah, 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 blah? The social media age has changed everything. Make your player marketable. Market the heck out of your player on Twitter and make them cool. And guess what? People are going to watch your games. Maybe not legally because blackout rules are really, really bad in baseball. I didn't say anything. That's a real thing. People do that. I'm not saying I do. But seriously, folks, how do you, as Rockies fans, feel about Major League Baseball? And again, if you are on the on more of the side of just getting a deal done, getting games played, getting out there and getting my baseball back, I'm not going to take that away from you because you know what? Both, there is no deal for someone like you. Baseball's not being played, and baseball fans are suffering the most. But don't be swindled. Don't buy into. Just look into things, conversate, talk to people, and tell me Tweet at me, please. I'm telling you, folks, if you're still listening, I know I got on the soapbox. I do it all the time. It's what I do. I'm a podcast host. Tweet at me how you feel about baseball right now. Has the lockout, has the actions of the Monforts, of the Rockies turned you away? Will you never turn away? Look at me. I mean, look behind you, folks. Look how I spend my time. I am a passionate Rockies fan, but I am an angry Rockies fan. I am a disappointed Rockies fan. I want to know how you feel. I want to know how the fans feel. Please, at LO Rockies, how do you feel about baseball? How have the Colorado Rockies made you feel about baseball? How has the lockout made you feel about baseball? Tweet at me, at LO Rockies. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about this next week, too. Let's talk about baseball here and now, though. Let's talk about what happens when the team takes the field. Let's compare this Rockies lineup to the division. But first, got to tell you about some of the great folks that get things done around here, like Built Bar. Built Bar is the place to go if you are looking to improve your snacking habits. If you're looking for that protein bar that doesn't taste like it came dipped out of a chemical vat, that they went in there and did the Simpsons big tweezers and grabbed it out of the vat and pulled it out. It's not going to taste like that because it's covered in 100% real chocolate and has so many delicious flavors that you can see at built.com. And listen, folks, they got the macro charts for all of them, but most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. And you can compare that to a candy bar, which usually has around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. Yuck. Head over to built.com and see all the delicious options available for you today, including the Built Bar Puffs, the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. At Built Bar, they are all about the taste. They make it delicious first, then figure out how to make it healthy. Don't know how they do it, but they pull it off every time. And you can get 15% off your order when you use the promo code LOCK15 at built.com. 15% off your order using LOCKED15 at built.com. 15% off at built.com using the promo code LOCKED15. Built.com. Get them Built Bars. Okay, let's rank this lineup. Let's talk Colorado Rockies baseball, and let's talk Colorado Rockies lineup. Folks, here's the deal. This lineup is not better than, again, we have seen a trend here, and I think that is a fair thing to say. This is a Rockies team from the outside perspective that people are going to say, that is a bad team. And it is. Simply put, if the Rockies do nothing, if the Rockies don't do anything to address the fact that they're most likely losing Trevor Story and they need a big power bat to not only replace Trevor Story, but honestly to beef up this offense that has not been great, even with Nolan and in the playoff years. The Rockies offense is in desperate need of beefing up. But if the state of the lineup right now, the Rockies are the second worst lineup in the National League West. And there's no real argument around it. The D-backs still have things to figure out. And as we saw last year, the D-backs we thought for a bit the Rockies and D-backs might be on similar levels, but those are two teams that are on different levels. And of course, the Padres still have a lot of firepower. They still have a lineup that it might not gel, and it still might not be working, and they still might need to make a couple of moves to figure things out. But if you're going to look at that lineup on paper, especially with the loss of Trevor Story, the Rockies are not a better lineup than the Padres. They're not a better lineup than the Giants, though the Giants, I think, are the team I think the switch that you'll see in the NL West this year is the Giants are going to take a step back just because I think recreating what they did last year is going to be very difficult. I think the Giants are going to be very, very good, but I think the Padres are going to, if there is going to be a flip, it will be between the Padres and the Giants. I will not count the Dodgers out, even with all this free agency stuff, even with the people they have lost. I will not count this Dodgers lineup out until the Rockies can show that they can go in and compete with them. Until the Rockies can go into LA and fight and hold their, and take advantage of the fact that they're off, their pitchers might be having a good game in LA, like we saw in that one series win at the end of the year. There's nothing that the Rockies have right now that's going to make you sit there and say that they are a top in the division thing. However, I think the Rockies will be one of the best defensive teams in the NL West. If you're talking about the defensive side of the lineup, I think this is a Rockies team that is going to be really, really good. Ryan McMahon and Brendan Rodgers are going to be great. We're going to have to worry about shortstop, but if we can get someone that plays fine enough defense, someone that is not a liability as a shortstop, that's going to be fine. Someone that just fields the position well enough. I have thought Trevor Story has been an underrated defender, and Trevor Story had a down year last year anyway in terms of his errors and his ability to play defense. So if you can get Trevor Story defense from last year from Trevor Story's replacement, you'll take that. It's not it's not elite, it's not the best that we know Trevor Story could do. However, it wasn't end of the world nightmare scenario. Because I think a healthy Trevor Story should have a Gold Glove on it in his award case, but I don't believe he does. So in terms of offensive production for this ball club, I am going to put them firmly fourth in the division. They are better than the Diamondbacks, but they are not better than the Padres, the Giants, and the Dodgers. And in terms of defense, however, I'm going to put them at least in the top three, maybe even the top two. We'll see, because I think this Rockies team is it depends on who they add in the outfield. This will be a team that doesn't look like it does right now post lockout. The Rockies will have to do something. They know they cannot sit there and say that they are not a rebuilding team if they don't go out and bring someone into play. If they don't sign free agents. I guess they will never say they're a rebuilding team. Anyway, but you know what I mean? If they don't show the commitment to adding an offensive presence, then this team is going to take a tremendous step back from an offense that's already taking step backs. Charlie Blackman, what does he look like as a DH? What does that mean for the offense? How much leeway are you giving Raimel Tapia? And again, we can't be excited when we're trying to count on someone that has a 62% ground ball rate. I love Raimel Tapia, but again, I want offense. I want Coors Field, Blake Street Bombers. I want doubles in the gap. I like Raimel's tool set, but again, if Raimel's in a trade to bring someone that plays a solid center field and can hit in the gaps, that's what we're looking for. I'll tell you what else we're looking for here in just a moment. But first, got to tell you about our friends at BetOnline. Head over to betonline.net for the number one spot for all your sports betting needs. Football might be over for this season, but basketball, full steam ahead. What month is it again? Oh, yeah, March. I'm going to go ahead and say that BetOnline has got you covered for all your March Madness needs. Odds, totals, player performance, props, all that good stuff available at betonline.net, the number one spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds, right down to March Madness, baseball when it comes back, football when it comes back, everything. They got it available on betonline.net. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn about the trends and action. That's betonline.net. BetOnline, where the game starts. I wouldn't be surprised if the Rockies maybe go after and get a shortstop and see if they try to go with some of these low-level names. Right now, though, however, and I've talked about this before, if you have an inkling, if there is any reality to the fact of Trevor Story talking to the Rockies, and like they said, you at least throw a great offer at him. If you didn't do anything to bump up to sign John Gray, maybe the idea there is that you'll lose John Gray to take the money you're going to spend on John Gray and go to Trevor Story. But if you bring Trevor Story back, what type of power bat for the outfield can you get? Is it a better idea for the Rockies to go towards an outfielder or an infielder? Because there's nothing we've seen or really heard that the Rockies would do enough to maybe go for both, to open up the checkbook, to open up the wallet, and to go out there and pay for both of these. I mean, Trevor Story didn't sign before the lockout. I'm curious what that means for his value now. I'm curious what his camp is talking about. And if the Rockies are giving him an order, a dump truck of money, and he's not getting offers that he thought, maybe even if the Rockies maybe do a smaller term thing with Trevor Story to see if he comes back for a 1 year or something like that, probably would have taken the qualifying offer if that was the case, though. It's a tough one because the Rockies desperately need improvement in the outfield. So if you need one or the other, I think honestly you go Trevor Story because you have all these outfielders ready to go. You got to see, and you can trade. I feel like the package a trade deal. If you had the choice to get Trevor Story or one of the top free agent outfield bats right now, I still think you go Trevor Story because you have enough outfielders to package to get someone that maybe signs that outfield, one of those outfielders, and another one is maybe not looking at solid playing time. Maybe with consistent playing time, the Rockies young guys develop, and can start swinging it. I don't really know. I'm not going to put all my eggs in that basket, but the Rockies to compete to avoid really a really tough year on offense, they have to add something. This team cannot do nothing. This team cannot rely on CJ Cron to be the number one guy on offense. It's just not how it's going to work. I want Ryan McMahon to be better on offense, but I don't want Ryan McMahon to deal with the pressure of being the best on offense because I don't think that's how he thrives. I don't think that's how he works. Brendan Rodgers, we'll see. But outside of that, right? I mean, it's CJ Cron, it's Elias. And again, I want Elias Diaz to hit how he did last year, and that's fine. I don't want Elias Diaz to be the person we count on to come up massive. I want him to be the guy that comes up in the 7-8 hole and hits a tank of a bomb, a solo shot to get the momentum going on the bottom half of the lineup. That's where I want Elias Diaz. I don't want Elias Diaz floating around in the top of the lineup because I think he's better where he was. For this Rockies team to be any higher than fourth place in the division with this lineup, they have to add people because this current Rockies lineup ain't going anywhere higher than fourth. I think the most likely move for the Rockies to improve this lineup is to improve the outfield and then see what you got at second base and see what's coming up through the farm there. Or you dump truck the money on Trevor Story. He doesn't get the orders that he wants, the offers he wants. He comes back to Colorado to be the Colorado guy. I don't necessarily, again, that's like I'm gonna put this one as like a 2% chance. And then you go out and you make a little trade. You package up a couple of your outfielders because you got your top prospects in the system basically are outfielders. You package up a couple and you go out there and you get you someone that can hit. Doesn't have to be a power hitter, someone that hits for contact and plays good defense. Plays a good center field or a good left field. Or a good right field even, but, we want better defense in center and left. Folks, how do you think the Rockies lineup stacks up against the division? Tweet at me, at LO Rockies, and make sure you're following Locked On Rockies as well. You can follow me at Paul Holden 33. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to keep you covered with the Rockies all off-season, lockout, preseason, all that stuff all year long right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, the Locked On Rockies podcast. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Locked On Rockies. Click that button. We love your support. It helps me big time if you do so. But folks, thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful weekend. I will catch you next week with more Rockies action where we're going to dive into some farm system talk, a little crossover action as well. Hope I get some responses too from all you people about how Major League Baseball has made you feel with this lockout, how the Rockies have made you feel over the past couple years, and all that good stuff. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast. Go listen to Locked On Bets and win you some money as your second listen of the day. Thanks for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. And until next time, I'm Paul Holden signing off.